So I really enjoyed looking at your animated GIFs that you posted in the discussion forum, and I hope that you have fun with that. So it was fun to review them. And I just wanted to show in this short presentation what are some advantages of using animated GIFs, some issues, look at some examples from your posts, and then think about how you might apply or use an animated GIF on one of your final websites for this class. So why would you use an animated GIF? Or GIF, however you choose to say it. You know that there are a lot of new ways to include an animation, including video. But some of the advantages of the animated GIF is that it uses lossless compression, whereas, for example, a JPEG would use lossy compression. And that contributes to less data and, of course, smaller file size, which leads to a quicker load time, which is what you want for websites. It also gets the message across in a quick video, which is basically an edited, abbreviated version of video. And you also want to watch how many frames that you use in your layers in creating an animated GIF. If you have over 15 layers, it may really start to increase the file size. And you can also create that looping interaction that just goes on forever, so the user doesn't actually have to press anything and it just continues to go on, so that it's immediate. And it works well with a lot of apps and social media. Some issues with animated GIFs: when it's limited to 256 colors. So you would want to select 256 colors when you export it, and also leave it at 128 dither. You don't want to mess too much with the color and the dithering. It's also best used at 500 pixels for sites like Tumblr, so keeping it at a small pixel size helps. They may not be as smooth in performance as video. One thing you could do if you're using just your smartphone or camera is to use a tripod. If you don't have a tripod, there's a lot of DIY tripod demos out there, and here's one that I've used with just a glass jar from a spaghetti sauce jar, rubber bands, and then attaching your smartphone so that keeps it stabilized. And then instead of the coins, I've used just old batteries. You can convert the animated GIFs to video. It can be time consuming though. So some other types of animations that you could use with this technique is a cinematograph, which is a product of a still photo with minor elements moving on it. And I showed this example on the assignment sheet on my website here. If you look at the Statue of Liberty, and really each frame is the same except for this one small area of his hair movement to give that portrayal of the wind blowing. So there are a lot of good examples of cinemagraphs that you could use for your animated GIF in a subtle way. And so here you can see some examples on this linked site with just one particular area of the image moving. Again, giving that sense of the smoke or a feeling that you're there, seeing some subtle movement, the sizzling of the bacon. A parallax is another technique where you can use multiple backgrounds which seem to be moving at different speeds to create this kind of faux 3D effect. This was a simple one that I tried. Here's another example of an animated GIF on my site, and then here's my parallax. Now this is a video clip, and you see it's only 5 seconds long, so it's still a pretty small file, but just creating some sense of movement using this layering effect, and that's a parallax. And then we can look at some other cool examples here on this website article that links to other websites. And some of these are larger and they take a while to load, so that could be a disadvantage. So if you wanted to use an effect like this, you could just consider keeping the file size down. Here's another example using artwork. So when I scroll down, you can see that effect. How might you use these techniques or the animated GIF into your website for this class? So you guys did a lot of interesting animated GIFs in the discussion forum. And one of the examples is showing motion. This one from Dawson, it shows a sporting event, so that's always a good way to show the action of the dunking. Also showcasing animated artwork, like a step-by-step how-to illustration technique or cartoon that's animated. Here Brahm shows kind of a step-by-step of his cartoon. And then also using a storyboard or just telling a story through your illustration, using a sequence of events or sequence of images. And there's Derek's artwork. It's also a good way to show a time sequence, kind of a before and after, something that happens over a period of time, or a time lapse. There were several examples of that, but here's one from Lindsay, and she did a good job of keeping those frames really still, and you can see the banana before and after it was eaten, peeled and eaten. And then also it can give multiple perspectives. This is helpful if you're selling a product or merchandise. I see this a lot with ads. If you're wanting to show several different designs of a t-shirt or several different products in one file, you can show a series of images. And I know Laura wasn't the only one, but here's one of our photography students showing a kind of a gallery of her work. And you would want to make sure that the speed is right and that it's not too fast so that you can see each image clearly. It's also a fun way to animate a message or a logo, especially if you might want to use it on a splash page or landing page. Here's Kaylin's example. And there was also an example that I found on the Peel. If you hover over their logo, there's an animated GIF bring movement and animation effect to their logo. And then this is where the cinematograph comes in, where that feeling of emotion or senses, and you can see that in Madison's artwork here with the smoke blowing, so that same kind of evoking that sense that you couldn't get from a still image. So now I hope that you can get some ideas of how you might use this technique of creating this animated GIF onto your personal site. And I just wanted to show this example. Julian converted his video to layers for this animation. You can see the snowflakes falling with that interesting perspective. And then in his original file, it's 9 megabytes. And then he made a smaller version, or in a smaller format, less pixels, that's 2.4 megabytes. So that can make a big difference when you're loading your media and your different images onto your site. And then this is just one that I did as a Christmas card using a still image, but then just adding another layer with the snowflakes falling. If we go back to the discussion forum, Jake, it loops back and then just copied those layers and then pasted them so that it goes back the other direction. All right, so we'll go on to Module 4 next.